Summer 2009.
Afro-Leninism coming to you on a silver platter.
I have the right for government not to control my health care.
Across the country, a grassroots rebellion gets ugly. The target, Barack Obama.
Why don't I have freedom? Because we elected somebody that wants to take our freedoms?
Enraged by bailouts, now the right went ballistic over health care.
Why don't they take the health care being forced down our throat?
The president was undeterred.
I'm not the first president to take up this cause, but I am determined to be the last.
We used a lot of political capital on healthcare, and the reason is simple. We're the only advanced nation on earth that didn't make sure that every person had affordable healthcare.
When you consider that presidents have been trying since Teddy Roosevelt to get health care passed, FDR was hoping to do it, JFK.
No matter how hard the road, what history will record is that Obama got it done.
We are done.
But that achievement that 7 presidents attempted, once thought impossible, is now at risk.
It's over for Obamacare.
This is the story of the epic battle to pass Obamacare.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Mr. President.
It began just days into Obama's presidency.
It was a big bet that he could do something that 7 presidents couldn't in the middle of an economic
Yes, it was a huge bet.
A bet many wanted to place somewhere else.
He had half a dozen big domestic policy goals that were fighting for attention.
The President of the United States.
First, Obama took his case to the very people he knew would try to kill it.
So let there be no doubt, healthcare reform cannot wait, it must not wait, and it will not wait another year.
When we were discussing healthcare, he said, what are we supposed to do, put our approval rating on the shelf and admire it for 8 years, or are we supposed to draw down on it to try and get things that are important done for the country?
This was a unique alignment of the stars for one party, a Democratic president, a big majority in the Senate, a decent-sized majority in the House.
Knowing what he faced from the Republican opposition, the president who ran as a government outsider surrounded himself with political insiders.
It was the opportunity to do things that nobody had the political will to do before.
Rahm Emanuel, an arm-twisting deal-maker. He had rapidly ascended the Democratic leadership in Congress. He knew the Hill, and he knew healthcare.
There's some value having been in the Clinton White House, saw where it went wrong from the inside.
Emanuel and Obama knew they needed congressional buy-in this time. They decided Congress should write the bill.
I just want to make sure that I don't get in the way of all of you moving aggressively and rapidly.
And there were others Obama needed on his side. The special interests, insurance companies, big pharma, the doctors' associations.
Karen represents America's health insurance plans.
We understand we have to earn a seat at the table.
He wanted the very groups that had killed healthcare reform in the past inside the room now. In March 2009, he brought them all to the White House.
We kept every one of those, but one, at the table.
All of the groups here need to stay involved.
They all made demands. Obama made deals.
None of these groups are doing this out of the goodness of their heart. They're negotiating, they want the best deal possible.
He compromised on the thing that was most sacred to him, the individual mandate, that every citizen buy health care. The idealistic candidate had become a steely-eyed pragmatist. Obama pushed lawmakers to pass a bill and fast.
And you get the impression that they're trying to jam something through Congress,
which is clearly designed for a government takeover of our health care system.
But by August recess, there was no vote. Capitol Hill lawmakers went home to angry constituents raging at town hall meetings.
The wave of angry mobs.
A protester came to the town hall meeting today with a gun.
Things are getting physical.
Universal health care is a big fat no.
The Tea Party had found its moment and its cause. Republicans began running away from health care. So did many Democrats. Many White House advisors thought it was time for Obama to do the same.
He turned to Phil Shalero, his legislative director, and said, Phil, what do you think the chances of passing this law are? And Phil said, well, it depends how lucky you feel, Mr. President. And the president just smiled and said, Phil, I'm a black guy named Barack Hussein Obama, and I'm president of the United States. He said, I feel lucky every day.
Feel that this is the time, now is the time.
And then, a huge loss to the country lit a new fire under the president.
Happening now, the Lion of the Senate. Ted Kennedy succumbs to brain cancer at the age of 77.
He realized how important it was to him that he get this done, because it's something Senator Kennedy had been fighting for decades as well.
And may he rest in eternal peace.
I return to speak to all of you about an issue that is central to that future, and that is the issue of health care.
Obama took the unusual step of going back to Congress.
I still believe we can act.
But the ugliness of the fight followed him in.
The reforms I'm proposing would not apply to those who are here illegally.
A Republican congressman had called the president a liar.
I couldn't imagine that happening to another president.
There was another problem. Obama would need 60 Democratic senators for a veto-proof majority, and the 60th seat was up for grabs in Massachusetts. It had been assumed Ted Kennedy's seat would go to a Democrat. It was, after all, Massachusetts. But suddenly, a Republican named Scott Brown was surging.
I thank the people of Massachusetts for electing me.
That was the death knell for health care because he was the 60th vote.
A year of his presidency was gone, political capital spent, and Barack Obama was staring at a likely defeat.
There are people who think that if Obama had been more of a schmoozer, that, maybe that people like you were too partisan, that somehow he needed to reach out.
Yeah, we're just one golf game away from singing Kumbaya. Give me a break.
Desperate, Obama changed gears. First, he apologized to the country.
I take my share of the blame for not explaining it more clearly to the American people.
Then, he barnstormed for the bill, across America and in Congress.
I may not be the first president to take up the cause of health care reform. I am determined to be the last.
Yes, we will. Freedom. Yes, we will. Freedom.
And he made more concessions, giving up the public option, which would have created a government insurance program that would have competed with private companies.
We ended up having to wrestle this thing to the ground in a way that was less than ideal from my perspective.
Finally, March 21, 2010.
On this vote, the ayes are 219, the nays are 212. The motion to concur in the Senate amendment is adopted.
For decades, they've been trying to do it. It has now been done.
Without a single Republican vote, the bill passed. The White House celebrated.
I asked the president, how does this night compare to election night? And he said, there's no comparison. Election night was all about getting to tonight. This is why we work so hard.
Days later, when President Obama arrived in the East Room to sign the bill into law, Vice President Joe Biden summed up the moment. And a big bet that paid off.
Thank you, everybody. Please have a seat.
Of course, the Republicans vowed to keep fighting.
We are resolved to have this law go away, and we're going to do everything we can to stop it.
The fight against Obamacare has gone on ever since, and there is no question that the program has real problems, from broken promises
If you like your health care plan, you keep your health care plan.
to soaring premiums.
Obamacare premiums will rise an average of 22% next year.
But 20 million people who were uninsured now have health care. Can it survive?
I think that President Obama should apologize for Obamacare.
But for now, the foundational idea that every American has the right to basic health care stands as Barack Obama's signature achievement.
The big question is, at the end of somebody's presidency, do people feel that their lives were better? There's a certain sense in which having accomplished something that presidents before you tried to get and is a fundamental right for Americans, that's a big thing.